Are you ready to add some color to your life? Let's make the Check Me Out poncho. I'm your By Crafty bestie, and I'll show you how. Let's go. Hello everybody, and welcome to the Check Me Out Gingham Plaid Crochet Poncho. The poncho that is perfect for the sweater weather season. Am I wearing a bra? Am I not wearing a bra? You can't tell when you're wearing a poncho. All right, so if you can't tell, I'm very excited about this make along because this is one of my most favorite pieces I've ever gotten back from a contractor. Literally, the moment I opened the package, I put on the poncho and I was in love with it. And I know you're gonna fall in love with it too. For this video, you will need your pattern and your material so that way we can get started with selecting the correct size, how to do the stitches, and how to work that gingham plaid. It's a whole lot of information in this video, so be prepared. So go to the bathroom, grab a cup of coffee, and then come back here prepared to work. I guess the first place to start is really how do you choose the correct size for your poncho? So let's go ahead and take a look at your pattern. This here is the ad-free PDF that is available in the VIP Experience upgrade. So if you have the upgrade, you will have this PDF available to you. Otherwise, you can get the pattern over at marleybird.com. All right, so on page 3 of the general information, you can see that the pattern was made using Roll With It melange, which I have right here, you guys. I grabbed 3 completely different colors than the sample because I know a lot of you were wondering, could you use different colors? Would it still look great? And I'm here to tell you it will. And I'm gonna prove to you by working these colors for all of my swatches in the video, all right? So this is the Roll With It melange. If you can get a yarn that's similar to this with long color changes, that looks a little bit marled, that's a really great way to get a poncho that looks very similar to mine. However, if you're somebody who's like, you know what, I'm really not into that, I think I wanna go with more solids, you can absolutely do that. You're gonna get a much different look, much more like a buffalo plaid, but you can do that. Clearly, this isn't the same stitch pattern, but it does demonstrate the gingham plaid. Here, let's take a look down here. So this is what it would look like if you chose just some solid colors, all right? Okay, so we have the Roll With It melange, and you have a variety of amounts that you will need for your cakes, whichever one you go with, okay? You have your notions, which of course we have our stitch markers and then our bent tip tapestry needle. And then I have a J crochet hook. You could also grab a smaller crochet hook so that way you can get gauge, you could test things out, totally up to you. And then down here when we talk about the finished measurements. Now the finished measurements of this poncho, it goes from a kid size large or a very, very small adult. It's really more of a kid size large. Then we have an adult small medium, adult large extra large, and adult 2X 3X. Here's the great thing about this particular poncho. We're going to make rectangles, and you can adjust the size of those rectangles as you find necessary, but we'll talk about that more as we get into the actual process. But for the start here, I want you to choose a size that's a little bit close to the same size sweater that you would wear, okay? Remember, a poncho is not going to fit you snug like a sweater. It's meant to be a little bit oversized. You're supposed to have some pretty good ease. If you don't know what ease is, that is the difference between your body measurement and the measurement of your garment. So if you have positive ease, your garment is bigger than your body. Make sense? All right, so I want you to choose a poncho size that's close to the sweater size that you would wear. For me, I am a 2X 3X size, and I'm wearing the 2X 3X size poncho. Okay, so let's talk about gauge. This gauge is given in the griddle stitch pattern. If you don't know what the griddle stitch is, I'm going to show you, but it's essentially a single double where you put the singles on the doubles on the singles. It's also referred to as the lemon peel. There's There's so many different names for it, but way back when I first started crocheting, it was called the Griddle stitch. It's actually one of my favorite stitches because it gives a lot of texture. So I used the Griddle stitch to get this gauge using a size J crochet hook. If you need to change your hook size because of the yarn you chose, or maybe you're a tighter crocheter or a looser crocheter, that's literally okay. That's the whole point of gauge. You want to make sure that your stitches measure this same amount so that way your finished measurements will equal these amounts. All right, that's all that gauge means here. Don't be scared of gauge. It's really there to help you out. It's the tool that you use to make sure that your garment will look like my garment. On the next page, we have all of the abbreviations that we use in this poncho. Now, if you're an adventurous beginner and you weren't too sure if you could make this poncho, but you were like, I'm going to trust Marley, this should give you a sense of relief because all of these stitches are stitches you should know how to do as a beginner. It's just chains, double crochets, single crochets, and slip stitches. Once you have that, the only other thing to learn is how to handle the yarn with the color work. And I got you there, boo. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know. Now, if you are on the VIP, you also get the stitch diagram that is exclusive to the VIP upgrade. On the next page, we do have the schematic available to you. And looking at this, I want you to notice what you're looking at. For this rectangle here, this is the panel that I was talking about earlier with the measurements. So it gives you the measurements of what each panel is supposed to be. And we will make 2 of these panels and then seam them together right there to create the actual poncho. Now, if you wanted to measure from about your neck down your arm and figure out what that would look like on you, these measurements, what that look like on you, that's a great way to kind of get a good idea of how the poncho is going to fit. And you can decide then if the size you chose is going to work best for you. I do want to make sure you know that this cowl, it says 15 inches, but you do not have to make it 15 inches because this 15 inches is actually folded over into a turtleneck and fits fairly snug around my neck on the finished sample, but this can be completely altered. So I just want to make sure you know this here is one of those things that you can change up. Okay, the layout down here is really just to help you understand how the seaming process is going to go once we complete our 2 panels. And then, of course, when you continue on, you have your notes. All of these right here in the PDF format or on the pattern on my website, those are all links to help you out with the video tutorials. And then it brings us to the pattern. Now, here's the cool thing about this pattern. Once you understand everything we're doing here in this video, you're pretty much off to the races. Week 1, you're going to finish 1 panel. Week 2, you're going to finish the 2nd panel. It's in week 3 that we are going to work the finished neck portion. So this poncho could absolutely be made in 3 weeks time, and you'll be ready for whatever the next pattern we have available right here in the Marley Birdhouse or on marleybird.com. Turkey trot's coming up, guys. Just so you know. Okay, so we have the pattern and we're going to take a look at the pattern, and depending on what size you are making, that's the number you're going to follow. So remember, this is the kids large, this is the adult small, this is the adult small medium, this is the adult large, extra large, this is the 2X, 3X. So one of the things that I would do here to help you out, because I know that as I'm working on patterns, and Lord knows I'm always working on more than one, I forget what size I'm working on. So I like to grab a highlighter, and I love the erasable ones because then I can fix mistakes. But if you grab a highlighter and you highlight the number of the size you're making, that will be super helpful. Now, I'm going to make the smallest size in the videos. So I'm just going to highlight this small size right there. Now I know that I am making the smallest size. And if I wanted to, anytime I'm going through the pattern and I find that there are all of those numbers side by side, I could just go ahead and highlight the one that pertains to me. So I can just know exactly where things are. So you could do the same thing. It's extremely helpful to just use your highlighter to your advantage and highlight the size you're making. Now that we have a better idea of what size you need to choose for you, and we've had a chance to look at the pattern, it is time to grab your supplies. We're going to chain, we're going to learn the griddle stitch, and we're going to learn the gingham plaid all at the same time. It's a whole lot of information. Again, get all your stuff, be prepared, let's jump in. There will be designated spots for you to pause the video so that way we can kind of work on this together, and we'll be off to the races. So I don't know about you, but I am very thrilled about this. Let's do this. Let's make ourselves a check it out panel, okay? First things first, if you did not get the same colors I did, it's important that we identify what color you have is A, which color is B, which color is C. So what I like to do is I will usually take my marker and I will pick the colors as I purchase them to know what I wanted. And I'm gonna just write on the label, okay? I write directly onto the label. That way, if I'm ever like in doubt and I'm like, oh, which color is which, I can just peek at my label and I know immediately what color is what. So I'm going to go A, B, C here. No particular reason why. I just was like, oh, that just works. Okay. So we have A, B, C. So that's the first thing you need to do is make sure that you know what color you're using where, because as we go into the panel, we will be using the colors as we go along. Okay. So we want to make sure we know what color we're using where. Speaking of the panels, yes, you will ultimately be making 2 panels. You will make one in this first week and then the second one in the second week. That's the whole plan here for the make along. So the big thing here is if you make any changes to your panel, if you decide on your end you want to lengthen it or widen it or whatever it is, make sure you make note of that so you can do that on your second panel. Okay. I know I have some of you in here who are just going to go completely rogue and decide to make both panels at the same time. Here's what I'm going to say to you. Good. You can do anything you want. This poncho is yours. This make along is for you. You do what you think is best. After all, you know how quickly you crochet. You know how to keep yourself entertained with a project. If that means working on both panels at the same time, I have no problem with that. You do what works best for you. I am not here to judge, okay? So that's what I'm going to say about that. But for everybody else who just wants to work one panel at a time, great. Let's go ahead, get yarn, and we are going to get started by chaining the number of chains indicated in the pattern for your size. If you remember, I am making the smallest size on here, so a kid large. So I want to make sure I get my color A, and I will chain 43. So I will chain 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. Here is what I want you to learn about this. As you're making your chains, I want you to be very aware of keeping this row nice and straight. So after you make about 4 chains, you'll notice that the top of the chains there look like a V, and the bottom is where you have that butt. I want you to take your other hand and I want you to put your thumb on the top of those chains. So that way you're keeping them nice and straight as you go along, all right? So I just did 4 more chains. I move my thumb up and I rest it right there on those V's, and it just keeps everything nice and straight. If you do that, you will have a nice, straight, consistent chain that you can work into on the following row. Also, I want to make sure as you're making these chains, you're keeping them the same size as your hook. Do not make your chain and then tighten it up like that, because that will make your chains way too snug on your poncho. You do not want to do that. You want to keep these as consistent as possible. So as you're making each chain, make sure you yarn over and pull through, and that loop that just came off of your hook, the one you pulled through, should remain the same size as it was when it was on your hook. So take your time, yarn over, pull through, and do not pull snug. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through. Keeping those nice and consistent, again, will keep your panel edge very clean. Now, my very last tip is to use a stitch marker every 20 stitches. You knew I was going to say that, right? You knew I was going to say bring in a stitch marker. After you complete your 20th chain, just put a marker right into that. That way you don't have to go back and recount your chains every time. It just makes everything so much easier. Stitch markers are your friend. Use them. Okay, get all those chains. I have all 43 stitches all completed right here, and it's now time for me to not only set up the griddle stitch, but to set up my gingham plaid. So following the instructions, I want to put a single crochet into the second chain from hook, but I'm going to have you use a stitch marker here at the start, and I want you to put a stitch marker in the loop on your hook. All right, I want you to put it in the loop on your hook. Now, follow along with me. We don't want to go into the first chain from your hook. We want to go into the second one, and we want to put a single crochet into that chain. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and then draw through 2. Notice that your stitch marker now is going through one of the legs of those V's that's behind the loop on your hook. That lets you know that that is your last stitch of this row when you come back to it on the next row, okay? If you don't like it hanging out there in just one loop, you can always take it off and put it through both loops now, but now you can quickly identify it, all right? So by putting your marker into the loop on your hook before you start, it very quickly lets you know, oh, look, that's the top of my stitch. If you're one of the people that has a problem or have a hard time seeing the top of the stitch, okay? So that's just to give you a very easy way to add that stitch marker, because I love stitch markers. You want to make sure you add them. Okay, once we do the first single crochet, we then continue on. So we're going to double crochet into the next chain and then single crochet in the next chain, and we will do that twice. So we yarn over our hook, go into the next chain, yarn over our hook, pull up a loop. You have 3 loops on your hook. Make sure all 3 of those loops are the same size as your hook, okay? That's how you're going to keep this double crochet consistent. Yarn over your hook, draw through 2, yarn over your hook, and draw through 2. Go to the next chain, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. You have 2 loops on your hook. Make sure they're the same size as your hook. Yarn over your hook and draw through 2. All right, doesn't look like much yet, and that was only one of our repeats. We have to do that twice. So yarn over our hook, go to our next chain, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. Make sure all 3 loops on your hook are the same size as your hook. Yarn over, draw through 2. Yarn over, draw through 2. Go to the next chain, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over your hook, draw through 2. All right, so we just did that twice. Now we double crochet in the next chain, so yarn over your hook, go to the next chain, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. Now it's time to change colors to B, and this is going to be the very first lesson in changing colors, because we want to make sure we change colors in the last draw through of the stitch prior to when we have to use the new color, which means this double crochet, we are going to undo it, so we're back to where we just have 2 loops on our hook. We will drop our color A, and we will grab our color B. All right, we're going to grab our color B. Make sure you leave a nice long tail. All right, we're going to grab our color B, yarn over our hook, and draw through those 2 loops with our color B. Now we have our color B on our hook. It doesn't look like much difference right here. It's just the nature of this yarn, but it's important that we have this color B. As we continue working these stitches, we want to hold our color A right next to these chains here, and we are not only going to work into the chains, but we're going to work around our color A. All right, I'm gonna leave the tail out here. I don't wanna work over the tail. I just don't like to do that. So I'm going to use my color B. So I have my color B in my hand, and I'm gonna continue on working into these chains using my color B, and I'm going to work around my color A, okay? So the next stitch is a single crochet, 1 single crochet, and then I have a double crochet in the next one. So I do a double crochet in the next. Notice I'm going into the chain and around my color A at the same time. And I'm going to do that 3 times, okay? So a single, and then a double into the next one. And then I have to do that one more time. Single, and then a double. Notice I didn't finish that last double because I know I need to change colors again, right? So I stopped where I have 2 loops left on my hook. I'm going to drop my color B, pick up my color A that I've been carrying along with me, and then holding together my chains and my color B, I will first off finish that double crochet with my color A. Now I continue on with my color A right here, doing exactly what I just did. So I'm going to start off with a single crochet into the chain, yarn over my hook, and then do a double crochet into the chain. I'm also working around my color B, okay? I'm doing all of this at the same time. We carry the color that we're not using along the row, okay? So that was 1. So we'll have to do this again. So I do a single, and then a double. That was 2, so I have to do it one more time. Do a single, and then a double. This one I'm going to pause here because at the end of that double, I know that I have to go back to star where I'm changing colors. So yet again, I will drop my color A, pick up my color B, finish that double crochet with my color B, and then continue on with my color A, just working that repeat, okay? You can see here, it doesn't look like much with the 2 colors that I've chosen so far, but the beauty of this yarn, you can see these colors, they don't look the same as they continue on. So at different points in the gingham plaid process, they're going to shift and mold and meld and just come out to this beautiful color kaleidoscope of beautifulness, right? It's stunning. So even if yours doesn't look like much yet, if you're using a multicolor like I am, it will eventually look like more. Biggest takeaway here, make sure you're keeping all of your stitches really consistent in size. And then as you are not using one color, make sure you carry it along behind your work so that way you're just working over it, okay? And what you will notice as we go from one row to the next, when you're carrying your yarn across, you want to make sure you're always carrying the unused color closest to the wrong side of your panel. So what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to have you add a marker to signify the right side of your panel. So right now, grab a marker that's different than any of the others you've done. I'm just going to grab this pink one. And I am going to consider this the right side of my fabric. Okay, this is the right side. So I'm literally just going to pop a marker into the right side of the fabric here. I'm just putting it into a stitch. So now anytime I'm working on my panel and I have this side of the panel looking at me, the side with this marker, I know I'm on the right side. So I know I want to make sure I carry my unused yarn more towards the back of my work. Whereas the opposite, when I'm on the wrong side, I want to make sure that I'm carrying that color like closer to me. So we'll take a look at that as we go on to row 2. But for right now, go ahead, hit pause on this video, finish row 1, and at the end of your work, join me here and we'll move on to row 2. All right? Hit pause. Just hit pause. with that, I finish my double crochet. So I end with a double crochet. And if I set this down, you can begin to see the different color changes of the two yarns. So really, no matter what colors you put together, it's going to look completely unique and different for all of these. They're just so really super duper pretty. All right, so what you are looking at right here, we're looking at the width of your panel. So we're looking at the width of your panel, which will essentially be what is measured from your neck down your arm. So if you're wondering what portion of the panel are you looking at, you're looking at the width. So if you decide to make yours a little bit longer, or you decide to do one of the other sizes to make it longer or shorter, just know that that will also affect the width completely, like coming down the body. And so your point of where it connects here to the width to the bottom of the body will also change. It could get shorter or longer. Just kind of keep that stuff in mind. Now, in order to kind of give you a best visual of what it is we're doing with these blocks, let me pull in the actual sample and let's talk about this, okay? Okay, so here is my actual sample, and here's what I want you to recognize in this. One, I want you to recognize that we are creating essentially blocks of color along several rows. So as you're working along your work in this way, you could see that let's call this color A. I was using color A. Let's say I was using color B, went back to A, went back to B, went back to A, went back to B, so on and so forth. When I got to the end of the row and I work my way back, I make sure that I'm still using my color A on top of A, my color B on top of B, whatever it is. And at the same time, I'm maintaining the griddle stitch along the whole way, okay? So whenever there's a single, I'm using a double. When there's a double, I'm using a single. You work these blocks just like so until it's time to change colors. When we change colors, not only do we change colors and like shift where things are, but we also will get like a checkerboard effect. So look at this column right here, okay? You have this block right here, which is the same as this block right here, which is the same as this block right here, and so on and so forth. And that's because all of those are the same color, right? They might not look like it because of the way this color changes in the ball of yarn, but it really is, okay? And then the same thing when you have this color and this color and this color, like they alternate and move around. Looking at what we've just created, we can see that we have prepared our panel to begin to create these blocks. So as I pull this in and I set this down, now maybe you can better see, oh, look, that's the start of one block. That's the start of another block. That's the start of another block. That's the start of another block. Another, so on and so forth. As I get to the end of the row and I chain one and turn, I will maintain the same color across all of those stitches, the same color across all those stitches, so on and so forth, all the while carrying the color I'm not using all along. Then when I get to row 5, I get to change up the colors and get a completely different look. How excited are you to see how your colors are going to meld together? I know I am. All right, let's go ahead, chain one and turn, and let's work row 2 together. This is the end of my row 1, and there's a lot of things that we have to do here. So we chain one and turn. Okay, so we're going to chain one and turn. First things first, you could take your marker and stick it into the loop on your hook, all right? Second, you have your color, your other color that you aren't using down here. You want to make sure that you carry that up so that way you can work across it for these first few stitches, okay? So you want to make sure that that yarn is up here. But you also want to make sure that you are holding it up on this side, because remember what I said about making sure that we are working around this color, and you want to make sure it's more towards the wrong side of the work, okay? So we want to make sure we're carrying the yarn this time around closer to this side, all right? So we want to carry it over here where we're looking at it over here. That way it won't bleed, all right? So that's the second thing. Now, we know that our last stitch we did was a double crochet, so our very first stitch is going to be a single. So make sure you're working around that yarn you're carrying up and work your single crochet. Again, now your stitch marker is right there into the top of that stitch. If you wanted to move it so it isn't just in one loop and you want to put it through both loops, just like that, you can do that. That's what I like to do. That's why I do it all the time. I like to see it in both loops. And then I carry on. So that's a single. And then I do a double in the next one. And just so you know, I am working underneath both loops of my stitch. I'm not just going into the back or just the front. I'm working into both. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. I'm going to do that 3 times total. So there's a single and then the double. This is why I call this stitch the single double. That's why I usually call it that over the griddle. Oops. And then a single and then a double. And in this double, I will be changing colors on the second draw through. So as I yarn over, go into my stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, I will drop this color, and I want to make sure I'm dropping it to this side this time, okay? And it's okay if the colors cross over each other. Drop it to this side, yarn over, pull up with the next color I'm supposed to use, and then continue on with the pattern. So I'll do a single, and then a double, all the while working through my stitches and working around the color I'm not using. All right, so I'm going to do this 3 times. Single and a double and a single and a double. This double, I'm going to change colors, so I'm going to pull through, drop my color I was using towards me, right? Because I want it to the wrong side. That's why we have that pink marker on the other side. And then I make sure I yarn over with my new color, and then I carry on, okay? Continue on doing this all the way down the row. Feel free to hit pause in the video. Join me at the end of the row, okay? Okay, I'm at the end of my row, and I want you to see how helpful it is to have that marker there. So I know that my stitch marker is in my very last stitch of my row, so I can just put my hook right into that final stitch and complete my double crochet. All right, so that's why that stitch marker is super helpful. Now I've reached the end of my row. I can see all of my blocks really starting to take shape, and my colors are starting to get different a little bit. Pretty darn cool. Now for rows 3 and 4, you just do a repeat of row 2. And then it's when we get to row 5 that we change up colors. So at the end of this row, you will chain 1 and turn, and remember all of the things I already mentioned to you. So you're going to chain 1, you're going to turn your work. It's at this point you could take this marker out from the row you just worked into. You could move it into the loop on your hook. All right, you can move it to the loop on your hook. You also do not want to forget that you will be carrying your color you're not using. Okay, you have to start right down here, carrying it, and you will carry it towards the back this time, right? Because we have our marker right here. So I know I'm looking at my marker, so I'm looking at my right side. I want to make sure my yarn is getting carried on the wrong side. So I will start off here, make sure my yarn is pulled up. Make sure your yarn is pulled up and you're working through both the stitch and around the yarn. Go into my stitch, and I finished with the double, so I know I'm going to start off here with a single crochet. My stitch marker is through that one loop. I like to have it through both, so I'm just going to adjust it. So I have it through both of those loops, so I know where the last stitch is. Now I just carry on, you guys. So I did my single, so I know I need a double now, so I yarn over, go into the stitch, make sure you're working around the yarn you're not using, and continue on. We do this 3 times, right? So each of these repeats, you're doing 3 times, and it's on the final double crochet of the third one that you will change to your other color. So right here, I would pause, drop what is my color A, pick up my color B, which I've been carrying along, yarn over with my B. Now I'm holding my A and I'm working with my B here, right? So I start off with my single and then my double, and I just keep on going. You know the drill. We're going to hit pause. We're going to finish rows 3 and 4. Join me back here and we will work row 5 together, and then you guys are going to be off to the races. All right, so let's go ahead, work on all of this together, and I'll see you right back here. Just click pause. It's just easier. And that way we're working together, and it really is a make along. Okay, see you in a second. Okay, friends, I'm at the end of row 4 and it's time to change colors. So we will be cutting our color A. So I'm going to drop my color A here and I'm going to go ahead and cut it. And I am leaving a nice long tail. Leave yourself a nice long tail that you can weave in. And on the last 2 loops on your hook for the last double crochet, I want you to change the color B. All right, we're going to change the color B. So now we only have color B in play. Is that a problem? Absolutely not, because we have a whole nother color to use, and that's what we're going to do now. So at the end of this row, we're going to chain 1 and turn, move our marker up just like we've been doing all along, right? You can put it onto the loop on your hook. We don't have a yarn here to hold across yet. We are on the right side of our fabric, so I can get started here on row 5. I will single crochet in the first stitch, just like I always do. I like to move that so that it's through both loops. Then I'm going to double into the next, and I do that a total of 3 times, so let me get through those. So that's 1 and 2 and 3. And on this third one, I am going to be introducing a new color. So I get to where I have 2 loops on my hook. I will be dropping my color B, and this is where we introduce our color C. So again, leave yourself a nice long tail when you change colors. Yarn over, pull through with your new color. Don't forget that we are going to work across our other color, okay? So I want to make sure I'm holding that color to the back. All right, hold it to the back, and then we're going to continue on. So we're going to single crochet, and then double, and then do that 3 times, right? So just like before, but now we're going to get that checkerboard look because we have adjusted our colors. And this is it, you guys. This is how easy this is. When you get to the last double crochet, remember, get to the last 2 loops on your hook, drop your color C, pick up your color B, finish with your color B. Make sure you're carrying your color C in the back again, oops, and repeat the process. You guys see this? How cool this is. I am, unbeknownst to me, I'm working with my tail too. I've been working over my tail. I just want to leave that out. I don't want to just crochet over it the whole way because that is not a good enough way to weave in your end. So I'm going to pull that out. Oh, goodness. You don't want to use both yarns to crochet. Here we go. I'm going to get it right here. All right, here we go. Single. Hold that to the back. And double. And then single. And then double. And this one is where I'm going to change colors again. So I will drop color B, pick up color C, finish that off, and then continue on. You'll notice here that you can really start to see where I'm getting some color differentiation, right? Like it's starting to look really super cool. I mean, this is just very exciting. Okay, by this point, you're probably getting really excited about the way this is looking. Trust me, I understand. I'm really excited. I can't wait to keep going. You're also getting very familiar with the griddle stitch or the single double, and hopefully you're getting more comfortable with the yarn management. I know here on the first several rows, it's a little bit tricky to manage the 2 strands of yarn as you're holding them and making sure that you're always holding the color not in use to the wrong side of the work, but I promise as you get going, it gets easier and easier. So what you need to do now is continue on with colors B and C through row 8. Then on row 9, you go back to colors A and B and start the whole process again. So the full repeat consists of rows 2 through 9, and you would just keep repeating that for the size of your panel. Remember, as you change colors from C to A, you want to make sure that you cut your yarn, leaving a nice long tail that you can weave in later on. The last thing to mention is the length of your panel. If for some reason you decide to make changes to the length of your panel, I want you to understand that it will not only lengthen the total depth of your poncho, but it will make your neck area bigger as well. Same idea, if you shorten your panel, it's going to tighten your neck area. So just be aware of that. I really like the length of the panel that we have written in the instructions, but if you find that you want to change that up, totally up to you. This is your poncho and you can do that. So your homework as of right now, everybody, is to finish the first panel for week 1. Tuck in all of your ends, make sure it looks nice and clean, and then finish your panel for week 2. All right, that's what I need you to do right now. And as you're working along, I want you to make sure that you take pictures and share with me on social media, because I absolutely love seeing your work, especially as we're using all of these different colors. It'll be exciting to see how the different color mixes pop together in these checkerboard. It's just very exciting. So if you take pictures, share with me on social media, and I will smash your like button for sure, and give you all the support you need. And there you have it. This is the start of the Check Me Out Gingham Plaid Poncho. Go ahead, get started, share with me, and I'll see you guys again very soon in the next video. Bye. Okay, I know I just threw a ton of information at you, but it is important that I mention it is not too late to join the VIP experience. If you want to upgrade to the VIP, you get the ad-free PDF. You get all of the videos in one place, including additional video support and a live Q&A. Not to mention, in that ad-free PDF, you get the stitch diagram that you can follow along with as well. If that wasn't enough, you also get the Practically Perfect Poncho, which is one of my favorite pieces. I hope that you will consider becoming a VIPer in the Marley Birdhouse. Go ahead and check it out. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.